Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Ruiz, CEO of BiasSync, and joining me is Dr. Crystal Miller. She is our Chief Learning Officer here at BiasSync, and also as part of that role and function, she develops, or under her leadership, all of our curriculum and our tools that are deployed to our clients. So we're talking today about our newest asynchronistic learning module, which is Anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. The correct title is Addressing Anti-Semitism and Islamophobia in the Workplace by Fostering Cultural Humility. So our purpose here today is to tell you more about it, what's important to know. Dr. Miller, let's start out by, at least addressing the fact that organizations should definitely be thinking about addressing this in the workplace, because we've now seen some headline-making situations in where people's passionate feelings about what's going on in the Middle East, in particular Israel and Gaza, it's now spilling over into the workplace, and it's now even spilling over into the treatment of clients or customers and creating reputational issues. So if you just give a little bit of context of why it's important to address this.
Absolutely. And I think first and foremost, anytime that we see bias playing a role that causes differences in the decisions we make, as well as the ways in which we interact with our colleagues, with our clients, with the larger community, we're really compromising not only inclusivity, but the rippling effects of psychological safety, a feeling of security, the ability to offer voice and be collaborative and cooperative in the workplace. We're seeing all of that really being compromised at a time like this. There is a heightened sense of risk for certain populations, and there is a real sense of threat that is present. So when we are talking about this content, it is not just about creating aspects of positive inclusion, but also how do we really mitigate the true threat and risks that are present to not only your employees, but also to your clients and to the larger community?
Yes, and just to give some context for those who may not have heard of us before here, BiasSync, our purpose is to create more fair and respectful workplaces. And so we do that using an evidence-based behavior change approach to how we deliver our solution through our SaaS platform. And it almost always includes learning content, assessments, other supporting tools, and then microlearnings. And so true to form, our newest module incorporates all of that. And it's important to understand that anti-Semitism and Islamophobia at the core is a form of bias. Now, we're obviously seeing overt, explicit, aggressive actions in certain contexts, but sometimes it is just implicit bias that people don't realize that they have. So could you delve a little bit further into what exactly, let's start with the learning curriculum. What are we focused on?
Yes. While we are focused on addressing anti-Semitism and Islamophobia in the workplace, we're looking at those two populations because we do see that those are the two populations that are most underserved and underrepresented in terms of religious bias. Our module also covers fostering cultural humility and mitigating religious bias and faith-based bias for all people of faith. And so this is really about understanding the ways in which culture and faith intersect and can impact bias in the workplace. It is largely applicable to a much greater audience, but certainly we do center the intention and the focus on these two very important populations that are unfortunately inadvertently experiencing a heightened sense of bias.
And based on the curriculum, and they're 10 videos with a very specific order. We break it up into videos because every module, because we want people to have the ability to start, stop, come back in to the process. They don't have to sit and do the entire, it's about a 1 hour process, the learning. In terms of the content, I just want to make it very clear that we don't get into the politics. We don't get into, politics of what's going on, both politically, but also take a position on what's happening in particular in the Middle East. What we're really focused on is helping employees recognize when anti-Semitism and Islamophobia is occurring. What does it look like? And maybe you can expand from there, Dr. Miller.
Yes, our approach is grounded in that evidence-based approach. We really focus on positive psychology to help us in that behavior change. So fostering openness, creating psychological safety, elevating belongingness in the workplace for all employees, while obviously cautioning against the implications of both religious and political bias. This training, does not take a stance, but it really helps employees understand the basis of that bias. Where does it come from? Why is it so challenging to actually mitigate? And when we're thinking about creating greater aspects of inclusion, first, how can you recognize when there might be bias in the workplace? In times, it might be overt, but sometimes we do see it being much more subtle. So how do you recognize it? And then when we're talking about inclusion, what are some common missteps that occur, particularly for these populations, when people take up forms of allyship? So we focus on larger components of religious acceptance and being able to actually celebrate religious acceptance and diversity in the workplace.
I love that, because we do include examples of positive contributions and impact people have had of different faiths and ethnicities as part of the module. Dr. Miller, if you could also dive into, we pair this learning curriculum with our proprietary CultureConnect assessment. Could you explain more about what that is, what it's designed to accomplish? And frankly, I'm thrilled about it.
Yes. And I can help us with some of those topics and content focuses. So we have 10 self-paced chapters that are a part of this module. And it's really important that clients also know that these can be customizable. So clients can self-select or opt out of certain chapters, and they can rearrange the order if that is a need that they have. We recommend all 10 chapters in the following order. So it's Introduction to Faith-Based Bias, the connection of faith and culture, why religious acceptance can be challenging, how cultural humility can create openness, why religious acceptance is challenging in the workplace, recognizing religious bias in the workplace, a closer look at Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, faith-based allyship and action, common missteps to avoid, and celebrating religious acceptance.
Excellent. And as part of, thank you for saving me here with the exact chapter titles or video titles. We also have interactive components to our asynchronistic learning experience. Could you talk a little bit about that and the purpose of it?
So the intention with our interactive components, they come in the form of really facilitating this module as a interactive virtual workshop. So they are guided through activities, reflection prompts. There's some polls that occur. When we have some of that interactivity going on, one of the common questions I get is, what are you going to do with the data? The data is available for us to collect. You can also, clients have the option to turn that off. So we can also not collect the data. The intention behind the prompts and the polling is to get learners into a space of critical consciousness where they are practicing reflexivity, where they are thinking about concepts in ways that they might not have imagined before. So getting them out of their rote habits around how they think about ideas and really encouraging them to consider new perspectives, new ideas, and ensuring that they're not just in a state of waking consciousness where they're just kind of absorbing the information, but they're actively participating alongside of us. So that's really the intention behind some of the interactive components. And like I said, we can turn off the ability to collect the data, but regardless, all data is anonymized. So we cannot tell who had said what within the workplace. And stakeholders and leaders, if they're interested in seeing that anonymized data, can receive learning impact reports, which will give them insight into what their learners saw as most valuable and how they're thinking about these concepts.
Mm-hmm. With that, by the way, we provide facilitation guides. We do that with all of our modules, like our race-based module, our gender, LGBTQ, et cetera. Those are designed to guide individuals in a leadership position, not necessarily by title, but who at the moment in time can be leaders to help extend the conversation further. With maybe Crystal or Dr. Miller, if you want to share a little bit more about what's in the facilitation guide to help our leaders in organizations.
Yeah, they're intended to deepen the learning, continue the conversation. We do see that the ability to retain learning, to make deeper connections, to actually see behavior change is through continued reflection and dialogue. And so these are scoped with the intention of giving leaders the ability to understand what is needed for certain dialogue components or activities. We provide instructions on how to hold or host one of these dialogue activities. And then we actually provide some talking points, scripts, common questions that you might encounter, and some relevant facts that might be helpful to have on hand for these types of discussions. So all of that to say, we have additional resources, microlearnings, and guides to support you in your learning for this content.
Yeah, and I'm going to come back to the microlearning. So now our CultureConnect, our proprietary, the BiasSync CultureConnect assessment. So could you elaborate more on that?
So CultureConnect is an assessment that is proprietary. It's highly engaging assessment because it takes individuals into a really experiential aspect of assessment, and it's focused on cultural humility. So if I can give you just a little bit of background on cultural humility, it's the ability to be open, adaptive, and really willing to learn about others that have different cultural perceptions, experiences than one's own, and it can be applicable in the workplace as it pertains to ethnic, religious, racial, gender, and even cultural bias. It really spans just a behavioral approach that we would hope that people are really exercising in the workplace when it comes to inclusion and belonging. With this assessment, when individuals actually engage in it, what they're going to get is a deeper understanding of how they leverage cultural humility. So they'll get actually a profile type. So think about it in terms of Myers-Briggs or StrengthsFinder. You get an understanding of what your topology really is in cultural humility, and you're going to be able to see insights of what you can learn about yourself, what might be helpful to know about others, and you're provided some growth, challenge, or learning edges to uncover. So there is a challenge aspect to this. So we hope that the learning and the behavior change continues. Leaders will also get their own separate organizational report, and that's going to give them metrics into understanding the state of their human capital. How do they stand when it comes to cultural humility? How expansive are their employees in terms of really being able to work across differences and across different cultures? And with that, we do provide a report that also outlines really key insights and action steps for leadership.
Excellent. So now let's talk about microlearning. So we've talked about core curriculum, deep dive into an area of focus. Again, in this case, addressing anti-Semitism and Islamophobia in the workplace by fostering cultural humility. So 10 video chapters in that module. Supported with our BiasSync proprietary CultureConnect assessment that's deployed at an appropriate time in the process. And then, and that's about an hour's worth, depending on, we do, our data shows that sometimes employees watch our content more than once. So, but figure it's about an hour in totality. And then we support that with monthly microlearnings. And Dr. Miller, perhaps you could explain monthly microlearnings, are roughly 5 minutes or so. Could be a little less, could be a little bit more, but they all have a job aid to go with it. And maybe, Dr. Miller, you could expand a little bit further on the efficacy of the microlearnings and how they're different than the actual core module.
Yeah, so as you said, these are about 5 to 8 minutes in duration. These are educational videos that cover one specific topic and one specific skill. So one type of behavior that we'd like to see employees leveraging in the workplace. What we do is uncover the main key components of understanding that are necessary in order to leverage this skill. And then we provide some tips on how they can immediately apply this behavior in their workplace. As you shared, each microlearning comes equipped with a downloadable resource for the employees so that learners can continue on leveraging the skills and have just a bit of a resource to guide them even further in their journey. When we're talking about addressing anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, we have microlearnings that are really specific to the microaggressions that are present in the workplace for both of these populations, the costs and things, key warning signs to look out for in terms of general aspects of religious bias, and really how to foster what types of behaviors foster greater belonging for those that are practitioners of faith in the workplace.
And the experts in the module, one is yourself, an expert on anti-Semitism, and the other is our other expert is an expert in Islamophobia. And so we have both faiths represented, and both are PhDs, and we pride ourselves on that. And so with that, I'd like to talk a minute about benefits, and I'll start with, the overarching business benefits, which are, I kind of alluded to one at the top of this video FAQ, which is, what happens out in the world doesn't stop in the doors or virtual doors, I guess, in this world. With the workplace, they do spill over. And you do have, you can have issues internally, but in some instances, you also can have problems that are reflected externally and make headlines. So you've got reputational issues, you've got discrimination risks, and we're seeing discrimination lawsuits go through the roof right now. And what other benefits, Dr. Miller, would you say are as a result of offering our training module?
Yes. First, I would say, we're hoping to create more inclusive and equitable workplaces. And when we think about inclusivity, we're inviting more voices into projects, collaboration, decision-making, and really creating that welcoming environment for all. When we increase diverse voices, ideas, and perspectives, we are leveraging and really fueling more creative and innovative workplaces. So there is an inherent business benefit to really leveraging inclusivity. When we talk about mitigating bias and really preventing some of those missteps, this is what you were talking. There's risk. There's real risk, both legal and otherwise, in the workplace when we ignore the signs that either bias or threats for harm in certain populations exist. And so this is about minimizing that, really giving people the tools and the skills to recognize early warning signs before they become larger issues in the workplace. It also equips participants with really understanding what's key in not perpetuating stereotypes. In many instances, people are unaware of how they are contributing to stereotypes, causing harm, continuing the cycle in bias and discrimination. And so this is about how do we empower people to create more inclusive and respectful workplaces. Mm-hmm. And then I would say the last major component with this specific module is about the connection to cultural humility. And that's going beyond just awareness. This is involving active participation, the willingness to engage in self-reflection, and the willingness to adapt one's behavior and really be curious, humble, and willing to navigate the diverse work environments, not getting to a place where we actually say, you can't show up as your true and authentic self, but how do we actually invite, in this case, religious acceptance into the workplace and create broader, applicable workplace behaviors that increase and really broaden prospects, potential audience, or client base?
Mm-hmm. And I would say not just religious acceptance, but it's also ethnic acceptance, because there is that connection, right? Culture and ethnicity. I would say one of the things I've heard from one of our clients that they're so glad that they rolled this out because their employees feel like the employer cares. By doing something, they're looking for signs from their leadership that their leadership or their companies care about their perspectives and what's happening in the world. So by rolling this out, for them, their experience has been that it's been very well positively received from the very basic level of just an acknowledgement that this is important to address. And then I would say, just in terms of some of the features, again, this is asynchronistic, so we do deploy this through our BiasSync platform. We do have the ability to integrate with most LMSs. We deploy to clients who have tens of thousands of employees. So we have a capability, or much smaller organizations. We've also, have clients who have, 50 or so or less. But the ability is they're not constrained by time and space. And people certainly can do this and access it via any device, whether it's a phone, a computer, a tablet, etc. So you make it very easy. Dr. Miller, have I left anything out that's important for people to understand?
No, I think we've shared it all. We've covered, I think the foundational pieces. It is just incredibly important to fostering a more inclusive, respectful, and engaged workplace where everyone feels valued, and they can look to your organization for leadership on how to navigate this time.
Excellent. If you'd like more information, you can contact us. An easy email is sales@biasync.com. I assure you that someone will get back in touch with you, and we're happy to provide certainly more information, even give you a demo. We even have peak sites for our potential clients or existing clients to actually see the curriculum and all the features. So we look forward to hearing from you, and most important, we look forward to supporting you in creating more fair and respectful workplaces, not only with this, but all of our other areas of training and tools and bias mitigation methodologies. Thank you.